My being here reminds me of a story that used to go around in the fire department at Boger City when I was serving as a volunteer fireman. The story of a famous firefighter who had all kinds of expertise in fighting oil well fires. It so happened during the time of his heyday, he was called to Texas to an oil well fire that was getting out of control. And so they brought him in and he called local volunteer fire departments from a vast area, set up a staging ground some 1,200 to 1,500 feet away from the well that was fully engaged in fire, and started to map out the plans with the different fire groups, volunteer firemen. As he was laying out his plan, they heard in the distance a siren. And as he proceeded, the siren drew closer and closer. When he had just about finished up laying out his plans of attack, how that they would go as individual departments, the truck that had been sounding its siren came whizzing by the command post about 50 miles an hour. They heard the brakes squeaking as it passed, and they came to stop about 75 feet from the oil well that was on fire. It was the Polish volunteer fire group. They rolled off the back of the truck and out of the cab of the fire truck, and in a matter of seconds, they had the main part of the fire knocked down, and the man with all of his expertise called for the other fire trucks to move in and completely put out the fire. Later, the owner of that oil well thought, I'd like to honor these different departments. So he had a big dinner for them. And for all of the departments, with the exception of the Polish fire department, he presented them with a check for $500 for their service. Then he called up the captain of the Polish volunteer fire department, presented him with a check for $1,000. And the MC of the program said, Captain, do you mind telling us what you're going to do with your $1,000? He said, we're going to get the brakes fixed on that fire truck. I tell you this, as an 86-year-old worn-out minister, I'm going to have to learn to put the brakes on. I enjoy preaching, but it wears me out. And not being able to see, I had to get Coach to read the scripture. Normally, Rosalind would read it to me 2 or 3 times, and I could memorize it. But with as many verses as it had, I knew that I would really mess it up. So I appreciate Coach reading the scripture. The way it reminds me, and I'm sure I've told this joke before, but I heard it, just enjoyed for the second or third time. Even there were 4 golfers, 3 of them were like myself and they could hit the ball, but they couldn't see where it went. They had a 4th playing partner, and he could see real good. But as luck would have it, he got sick and died, so the 3 legally blind golfers didn't have anybody to play with them. But they'd still go out to the pro shop every day that they had normally played on and sit in the pro shop and reminisce about old times. When they came in one day, the the pro at the shop said, "Fellas, I've got somebody that wants to play." They immediately said, "Can he see?" "Oh, he's got good eyesight." So they went out. The three that were blind teed off, each one asking, "Did you see it?" "Oh, yeah, I saw it." "Oh, yes, I saw it." "Oh, yes, I saw it." And then the fella teed his ball up and hit it. They got in the golf carts and said, "Where did the balls go?" He said, "I forgot." Well, it's a dilemma. Earlier in the week, I may have a thought that I want to present, but then on Sunday, I forgot. But I do have a title, and I think the title is that how times have changed. Times have changed, but some things remain constant. They remain the same. I was talking with my brother this week, and I was asking him about the telephone that we had at the parsonage in David County. This was about 1935. And he said, "Don't you remember? There was a wall mounted telephone up about head height, and it had a crank on it. And you cranked that crank, and it rang a bell at Central. And when Central answered, you would say, 'Mabel, get Jim for me on the telephone, or get Bob.' And Mabel would say, 'Just a minute.' And she would plug in the lines and connect the two lines. How times have changed. Most of you have cell phones or more modern versions of cell phones that have dictionaries and everything else. Pick up ball scores, pick up information that you may have want to know something about. You can even Skype on them. I won't ask you what that is, but some of you probably Skype. You can get on the internet and talk with a person in Holland or any place in the United States, and as you talk, you can see her as she speaks. It's amazing how times have changed. Computers have revolutionized the way we transact business and do business. I remember as a small child when Daddy had the David circuit with 6 churches. We would leave out early in the morning and go to a church, and when he had preached at the 10 o'clock service, we would go to another church at 11 or 11:15, and then after lunch or at lunchtime, some farmer would invite you to go home, and there would be a sumptuous meal with ham, all the trimmings, fried chicken. And then in the afternoon, you may go to another church at 3:30 or 4. And when you left that church, you went to another farmer's home and had a meal with them, and then to the evening service at that particular church. And I can vividly remember getting to the church, and some of the laymen would be there with the Aladdin lamps. They were had metal bases, a stem that came up with 2 wicks, and they would fill the lamps with white gasoline, I guess, and then they would pump it up, and the lights would stay on as long as the gas was in the tank. And I always prayed that the lamps would go out and we'd get to go home early. But the lamps would hold a good deal of time. And now we have lights. We don't have a pot-bellied stove to heat the sanctuary. We have gas heat. We have air conditioning. how times have changed. The modes of transportation. I talked about Philip a moment ago, that as paralyzed as he is in his legs, that modern technology has made it possible for him to drive a car. I'm looking forward to these cars that drive themselves, but I'd probably punch in the wrong thing and end up in a ravine somewhere. But times have changed, some for the good and some for the bad. And our process of different parties having primaries, times have certainly changed this year with, as my mother would say, son, if you don't, or say that again, I'll wash your mouth out with soap. Some of our politicians, I think, need to have their mouths washed out with soap. I hope that this isn't a prelude to coming elections where we belittle people. I remember Ms. Abby saying, if you can't say something good about a person, keep your mouth shut or don't say anything. It's terrible, terrible. But some things remain constant. They never change. They were true when my grandfather, my great-grandfather, my father, for myself, and for my children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. I'm indebted to Kirby Dellinger. Some of you probably remember Kirby. He worked at Abernathy Chevrolet years ago. He's a patient over at the Bryan Center. And he gave me a piece of paper and said, Joe, you might enjoy this. And it was titled John 3:16. And evidently, the scene that is described on the paper took place in the late 30s or early 40s, because I can remember in the streets of Charlotte seeing paper boys carrying their paper folded and saying, extra, extra, read all about it. And it was in that setting that the scene took place in John 3:16. It tells about a little boy, or young boy, who was selling papers on the streets of a small town. And he was cold. The wind was blowing strong. The temperature was below freezing. He was bundled up. He saw a policeman coming by, and he said, Mister, do you know where I can find a warm place to sleep tonight? He said, I sleep in a box back in this alley, and it gets cold in it. The policeman looked down at the young boy, and he said, son, go down the street 2 blocks to the big white house. Go up and knock on the door, and when you knock and someone comes, simply say John 3:16. So the boy walked down the street. He came up on the porch of the big house. A matronly lady came with a smile on her face and said, the boy immediately said, John 3:16. The lady said to him, come in, son, come in out of the cold. She led him into a big den area where there was a roaring fire in the fireplace and logs had just been placed on it. Put him down in a rocker close to the fireplace and said, sit here a while. And as he rocked and as his body began to take on the warmth of the fire, he said, John 3:16. I don't understand it, but it sure does make a cold boy warm. After some time of basking in the heat, the lady came and told him, said, are you hungry? And he said, yes, ma'am, have eaten today. She took him back into a kitchen where there was a wood stove and set him down at a table that was full of food, told him to eat and enjoy himself. And he ate until his stomach was completely full. He said to himself, John 3:16. Said, I don't understand, but it sure did make a hungry boy full. After some time, the lady came back and took him up a set of steps, led him to a bathroom where there was a kerosene heater, and she had drawn a tub of hot water. He'd never been in the tub before. He got in the tub of hot water, laid back in it, and he began to see the black grime and dirt on his arms go away. His hands were clean, and he soaked and soaked. And he said, John 3:16. I don't know what it means, but it sure has made a dirty little boy clean. Later on, the lady came, led him to a bedroom where there was a big feather-tipped bed with covers on it. She put him in the bed, tucked the covers up around him, kissed him on the cheek, told him that she hoped that he had a good night. As he lay back on the feather bed, he thought to himself, I've never had this kind of a bed. John 3:16. I don't understand what it is, but it sure does provide rest for a tired body. In the morning, the lady came back and took him back to the kitchen in front of eggs, all of the trimmings, told him to eat. And again, he thought, John 3:16. I don't understand it, but it sure makes a hungry boy full. After some time, the lady came and took him back and put him in the same slanted chair, reached on a table close by and pulled out a Bible and said to him, Son, you know John 3:16? The boy said, No, ma'am. And she read him John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever liveth and believeth in him should never die, but have everlasting life. And she told the young boy of a loving Father who had sent his Son into the world to save the world, and that Son had died on the cross for the sins of the world, for his sins and her sins, and for every man that comes across the face of the earth. That little boy who had been lost was now found, for he had found his Savior. John 3:16. It's the same message that has resonated down through the centuries. And amidst all the changes that take place in our society, it's the same message that came to our fathers and our forefathers, to us and to our children. Another thing that never changes is our nation and the greatness of our nation and government, our national government. Sure, there have been changes, there have been amendments, but some things never change. We need to strive to maintain the democracy, the freedoms that our fathers fought for, and some of your children fought for. These are the things that have made our nation great. The final thing, excuse me, that has not changed is the Christian home. I think we still observe National Family Week. If we don't, we should. Because most of us that are here today are here because of godly parents, of mothers who most often played the predominant role in matters relating to training and teaching us to observe a perfect and a good life. I thought of the scripture this morning, train up a child in the way he should grow, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. And I'm sure that as you reflect back today, you can reflect on the mother who either held you in her lap or sat beside you and talked to you about life and love and forgiveness and peace and understanding. And it lays a burden not only on mothers on this Mother's Day, but it lays a burden on parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, to train our children that they may grow up with the same faith that was handed to us. Times have changed. And I think that it's an indictment on our country that the family has not fulfilled its place in our modern society. And because of the failure of the family, we see how it's affecting our culture and our world. So let us remind ourselves that we have a responsibility to pass on the torch of love, compassion, and understanding to our children. May our children remain obedient to their parents, and may they instill that obedience to their children and their children's children. Amen and amen.